Happy 420, folks. I'm Jake Davis, and yes, I know this is a very sacred, special, holy day. But I did my top 5 stoner video last year, and I've already seen all the great stoner movies. And, so I'm gonna do something else instead today. I'm gonna just do an old school wrestling review for you. I know I covered Wrestlemania, 38 earlier in the month, so I considered not doing this. But I said, no, fuck it. I have a lot of fun going back watching these old shows, whether they're the really good ones or the really bad ones. It's nice to see the era. These little snapshots in wrestling history, and also in comparison to what's going on now. It's always interesting. So what I'm talking about today is going to be WrestleMania 8, which was held on April 5th, 1992 in the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, Indiana. About 62,000 people showed up for this, and our commentating team is Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby the Brain Heenan, which is about the best thing about this show. Why I decided to do this? Because this was the first WrestleMania I got to see in any way. Said before, I got into wrestling throughout '97. Was totally a junkie by Christmas, and by the summer I started getting into my more historical. Looking for the artifacts. You got to find all the magazines. Got to find all the old VHSs. Anytime I was in a grocery store or Walmart video store, I got to see with the guy in wrestling stuff here. And the first time I got a chance to see any WrestleMania, the VHS, I think I got from a buddy from a kid, borrowed from a buddy at school. And it was Mania 8. Oh, it's not a good Mania. Well, let's just get to it. Our opening match is Tito Santana during his ill-conceived El Matador. I mean, Tito was already over. He was already a big star, a former IC and tag team champion. Why did he need some silly gimmick all of a sudden? It didn't make sense. But he's taken on the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, with sensational Sherry Martel in his corner. Now, this is months, if not just weeks, into Shawn's Heartbreak Kid solo run. He had thrown Marty through the plate glass window in like January of that year, so it's like I'm not sure when he got with Sherry, but yeah, I mean he's got the strut and the music, and it's still the evolution. He's got that cockiness. He hits a super kick, but it's just like a throwaway move. The finish is Tito goes to body slam Shawn from the apron back into the ring. Shawn grabs the top rope, throws Tito off. Tito falls back, I guess, hits his head, and Shawn Michaels gets the win. I mean, it's fair to bitch about the reliance on safe roll-ups and DQs and schmazzes in modern day WWE. And it's fair, they do it way too much, especially on TV matches. But the opening match at WrestleMania, the babyface loses because he basically tripped over himself. That's bad. Anyhow, this would be a beginning of a somewhat successful solo run for Shawn Michaels. Up next is Jake the Snake Roberts taking on the Undertaker. Another big moment here, because this was kind of the Undertaker's babyface turn storyline. Jake had famously closed a casket on Taker's hand, trapping him on TV, and then beat the shit out of him with a steel chair while Taker was just helpless. And all it became out of something like Jake wouldn't help. Taker wouldn't help Jake jump Macho or Hogan or something like that. Yeah, this is how Taker turned face, and he's becoming a huge star. And Jake was on his way out of the company, and his problems are starting to get out of hand too. it's a slow match. You see both these guys in their prime, which for Jake would have been about 7 or 8 years earlier, and for Taker would have been about 20 years later. But no, seriously though. But both these guys in their absolute prime could have had a hell of a show. Jake hits a DDT, but Taker kicks out. Taker hits a tombstone on the floor, throws Jake back in, hits a second tombstone, and wins. And much like that kid, Shawn Michaels, Taker would also go to have a so-so singles career. Pause this real quick, after all. Up next is genuinely one of my favorite matches ever in WrestleMania, if not in wrestling. Intercontinental Championship. Roddy Piper defends against Bret the Hitman Hart. Great. By the way, pretty much everybody who wrestles on the whole show cuts a pre-match promo. Seriously. So, pretty much everyone but Owen Heart. But before the match, Gene interviews Piper and Hart together. And, Piper's just busting Hart's balls. It's funny, but great. This whole segment here is great. Even before they get to the match. He's sitting there telling me, it's just great. I love you, family. I got to tell you how much I love your mom. I love your dad. I love your brothers. I grew up around them. I spent so much time around them. I mean, yeah, sure, everybody was stupid. Sure, you guys were always broke. Sure, you smelled funny, but I love every one of you. He's just busting his balls. He goes to pinch his cheeks, Bret slaps his hand away, keep your hands to yourself. Gets heated and start yelling at each other. It's competitions for the the IC title. Piper pulls a belt out that he's hiding behind the title belt for some reason. I guess he was going to hit Bret with it. And then they just have a great match, man. Bret gets a great reaction. Piper gets a huge reaction from the crowd. And it's just great. I mean, I can't really describe. I mean, you have to go back out of your way to see this match. It's one of the best face versus face matches. Roddy's working stiff. He's working like Roddy. He's using stiff right hands and jabbing the eye any chance he gets. One of the great best blade jobs you'll probably ever see. He is the excellence of execution, and even at blading, Bret Hart's better than most. I mean, you can't even tell. You can't notice it was blade. The way he sells the right hands and the way the guys move and work together and the way it's shot, you completely buy that he got busted open legit from those stiff shots from Roddy. And apparently he wasn't supposed to blade, and this was done so fucking well that they even tricked Vince. But it's brilliant. Eventually, Piper's working stiffer and stiffer, nastier and nastier. Bret's just bleeding all over the place. The referee gets knocked down. Piper goes to use the belt, the ring belt, and he's going to smash it over Bret's head. The crowd, just going insane. Babe, Roddy, don't do it. Roddy, don't do it. Finally, he throws away. Hold on. Dad. Good morning, baby. Come and give me a hug. So the crowd's begging for Piper not to hit him with it. Finally, he throws the bell back out of the ring. The crowd goes nuts for this. Catches Bret in the sleeper. Bret runs towards the ring post. Jumps up, kicks off the ring pad. Rolls backwards just as the ref's coming to. Roddy's caught in a pin. 1, 2, 3. Absolutely phenomenal. An amazing match. Like I said, go out of your way to see it. It's just great. Of course, Bret will be WWE champion by the end of the year. That's just some silliness. 8-man tag team match. Okay, the face team is Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Virgil, who was this third guy? I'm gonna pause this and look it up. That's how good this match was. Third guy was Big Boss Man. So Virgil, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, the Big Boss Man, and Sergeant Slaughter taking on the Nasty Boys, the Repo Man, and the Mounties. There's two little things I gotta say. How bizarre is it that just 1 year earlier, thinking back now, just a year earlier from at this point, the Sergeant Slaughter was WWE Champion in the main event, a heel, and a traitor. Wow. And also, one thing I've realized about over the last 2 years of doing these old school wrestling reviews is that Barry Darsow deserved better than to be the fucking Repo Man. Tell you that much. Well, the best thing about this whole match is the beginning of it. Ray Comb from a Family Feud, who just sad. As soon as he popped up, the first thing I thought of was how the man died. It was just awful, poor bastard. Suicide, but he he introduces the heels teams. It just gives great shots on each and every one of them. They try to jump them before the match starts, and the match itself is just, it's nothing. It's stupid. The finish is the only thing worth remembering is that in the finish. The finish isn't worth remembering. Just had to remember it for the sake of the show. This my thing here with you. Raycomb thing, but so Nasty Boys. So Nasty Boys got Virgil, like they're gonna charge him and hit him. Virgil ducks. Knobbs knocks out Sags. Virgil gets the pin. And that happened. Up next is, got a lot to say here about this one, actually. Tried to go fast. Okay, so WWE world title match is on the line. Ric Flair with Mr. Perfect in his corner, defending against the Macho Man, Randy Savage. Yeah. Flair's made it very personal. It says after he wins, it says he has an old affair back in the day with Miss Liz. And once he wins, he's gonna hang the Hoosier Dome with this big sexy photo he took over years ago. Of course, we never even, no, they don't. I would like to have seen it myself. What's his face? So there's a match package. Flair and Savage cut pre-match promos. They have the longest match of the night. It goes about 20 minutes. There's a post-match beatdown, and there's both guys have post-match interviews in the back, and then commentators recap the whole thing. The whole thing eats up about maybe 30 minutes of show. More than anything else on the whole night. Considering it's your longest program of the evening, it's for the WWE Championship. Why is it not the main event? There's no good reason for it. Anyhow, the match itself was frankly better than I remembered it being. Savage and Flair always had terrific matches. Their blood feud in WCW. But it's crazy, man. This is the second of two of the last three retro old school pay-per-views I've covered. And I didn't even plan this, but two of the last three I've done had Flair and Savage for the world title in the mid-card, and Hogan against some giant with no stakes whatsoever in the main event. Fuck Hulk Hogan. Man, just pissed all over Randy Savage's career, didn't he? Anyhow, yeah, man, they just have a great match. Flair blades, but you can see him blading on camera. It's like, why are you using a razor? Ric Flair, just like, that's all you need to do, man. But, yeah, they're just beating on Savage's knee. Perfect's constantly getting involved. Elizabeth comes down to ringside looking absolutely gorgeous. Oh, look, it's little Shane McMahon in a suit. Oh, isn't he? Before he had a sweating issue. Anyhow, eventually the finish is Flair gets a figure four. Savage is able to get out of it. Flair goes for another figure four. Savage is able to turn it into a small package and win to a thunderous pop to once again become the WWF World Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, man. Kind of good moment, but it's like, he didn't go. He's like, the post-match, he gets beaten down by Flair. Liz slaps Flair after the match, gets another great pop. And after the match, Flair Savage during his interview with Oakland tells us, let's just take the bell. I got to talk about how I'm going to kill this man. It's great. It's great. God damn it. They should have gone last because the whole last hour of the show, the crowd is spent. They put the IC title and the WWF title were the two longest matches, high-stake matches, emotional matches, and easily the two best matches of the night. Putting them so close together, they wore out the crowd. And then nothing, and they kind of rushed through a lot of the other show, but I gotta go see what this kid just broke. Okay, let's just get through the next one. Tatanka takes on the model Rick Martel. Dear Lord. Look, man, I don't know if Tatanka is even... Was he Native American? Is he actually? I don't know. And the truth is, it doesn't matter because I never liked that gimmick. It's like between Tatanka's entrance and Martel's promo, and then the commentary. It was like the whole point of this was how many racist stereotype Indian jokes can we work into about 5 minutes of TV time? Look, man, I ain't gonna say, oh, it was a different time. No. This made me cringe then. When I first saw it. And, when I first saw it, it was only 6 years after it happened. The 90s was still pretty cringy. There was not even though it was that really where this PC wokeness really started to get out of hand back in the 90s. It wasn't before it went nuclear, like in the 2000s, which was just full-blown insanity. I mean, the 2010s. But it was there then. But there was still this rampant shit like that. This is distasteful. I mean, yeah, sure, he makes all these racist jokes and Tatanka goes out there and whoops his ass in just a few minutes, gets an easy win, but yeah, I don't like it. I'm going to sit here and say I'm offended because personally I think it is a sanctimonious and it's absurd. It's to have the audacity to be offended on behalf of people you don't know. I mean, if somebody offends a friend of yours or somewhere you're from or people you know or things you can something can be distasteful, but that's not the same as being actually offended. This does not affect you, But yeah, this. No. Didn't like it. Up next, tag team title match. Money Incorporated, Ted DiBiase, and IRS with Jimmy Hart taking on the natural disasters, Earthquake and Typhoon, I think. Yeah, Typhoon. They, tugboat. Oh, boy. Again, the crowd's just not into this. They try to... There's a lot of, half-hearted attempts to cheer. Like, for example, they totally botch the hot tag. And you could hear the crowd, a second after it happens. And they realize, oh, that was the moment. But no one really... It's basically the pop goes yeah, I don't care. I didn't care. So just when, he starts his big stomp, like he's going to go for the avalanche, DiBiase and IRS pull a guy out, and they split. They get themselves counted out, and wasted time. Should have been on earlier in the show. There's the last title match of the night. Semi-main event time. Owen Heart versus Skinner. Now, I'm probably going to talk about this longer than it went. Skinner, of course, was Steve Kern when he was in his poacher gimmick, which was terrible. But these guys are literally given no time. There's no entrances. The camera cuts to the match. Both guys are already in the ring. The bell rings. They don't even get entrances, really, in any way. I think Owen Hart's name pops up for a second. But yeah, there's Skinner jumps him, stomps him a little, goes for an Irish whip. Owen rolls him back and pins him, and it's over. The whole thing's maybe a minute. It's a shame. It's a damn shame because we gotta hurry up and get to the main event, which of course is a fucking long promo of Sid's. They have the match package. Then they have cut to Sid's promo. Then halfway through Sid's promo, they show an entire interview from whenever between Hogan and McMahon about Hogan saying, "Oh, I may leave. This may be my last night. May not." There's no stakes here whatsoever. Sid says goes back to Sid's promo, says he's going to end Hogan's career, and we finally go to the match. And there's like little time for this too. The crowd pops for Hogan coming back. Coming out, crowd pops for Hogan's Hulk up. Hogan hits the leg drop. Harvey Whippleman gets in the ring. The referee just calls for a DQ. The crowd can tell something's wrong because Sid kicks out and Hogan no-sells it. And the crowd knows it was a mistake. And then, like a minute later, here comes Papa Shango. If you know anything about old school Botchamania, this kind of stuff, you know this story. Godfather, Papa Shango, missed his cue. And he fucked up, he botched the finish. And even though it was botched, it was still a DQ in the main event at WrestleMania. Now, you can say whatever you want about main events at WrestleMania, which one's the worst one. Hogan coming in and just pulling in Money in the Bank on Yokozuna, basically. Triple H and Roman Reigns having a 30-minute snore. A football player and a mid-carder in the fucking main event. But to me, there's no worse main event at WrestleMania than a grudge match that ends in a DQ that gets botched. Wow. This is WrestleMania, guys. Yeah, sure. You can do non-title matches at WrestleMania to be the main event. But, Hogan was the world champion at WrestleMania 1. It was streak versus career between Michaels and The Undertaker. And even Roman and Undertaker, looking back now, was unfortunate because Taker kept working, and it was getting scary to watch. That was supposed to be his retirement. But yeah, to me, this is the worst main event in the history of WrestleMania. The crowd does go home happy when the Ultimate Warrior returns to Big Pop to run off the heels as the show goes off the air. One more thing before I wrap this up. There was a tag team match on the pre-show between the Bushwhackers and the Beverly Brothers that got more match time than 5 of the 9 matches on the main card. Wow. Ultimately, yeah, it's a terrible WrestleMania. But I'm still only going to give it like a C. Because the commentating team of Monsoon and Heenan is just great. Seeing the early days of the push for future staples of the business, like Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker and Bret Hart, was great. Seeing this last real hurrah in the main event of the company for guys like Flair, Savage, Piper, and Hogan was also interesting. Hogan was burnt out. Time to go, Hulk. Time to go. At least go down the card. I really think that the whole show would have flowed better and worked better with less promos, a little bit more time spent on matches. Maybe just the Owen Heart and Skinner match. You could have given those guys 2 more minutes. Seriously. And just switch the placing of the WWE title is the main event and Hogan's Vicious is in the middle. That's simple. And I think the whole show would be more fondly remembered. I really do. I also forgot to mention little things here. Lex Luger did this via satellite interview, which was, I'm sorry, a lot of people shout Lex Luger. I've always been a big fan of Lex Luger. I love Lex Luger. And this era right here, his 1.5 year run as the Narcissist is the best shit he ever did. And the other thing was, the Road Warriors coming to WWE already. I mean, they've been there for a minute if this wasn't their first night. And in their first promo, they're already being hailed as the greatest tag team in the history of the business. And yeah, WrestleMania 8 is widely considered as the first WrestleMania that just straight up sucked. And I don't agree with that. I think WrestleMania 2 sucks. A lot of people think WrestleMania 1 and 4 are boring. I don't know, man. And WrestleMania 7 is kind of just a one match show, to be honest with you. Tell me any other good match on that entire show other than Savage and Warrior. It's the only good match that whole show. Anyhow, that was WrestleMania 8. And tell you the truth, I had a lot more fun going back, rewatching it than I thought I would. Even though, to be fair, it took me 3 sittings to get through it. Anyhow, I'm Jake Davis. Happy 420. Smoke 'em if you got 'em. And I'll catch you on the fly, baby.